we can get started. We really don't take roll. So, Jeff, do you have some announcements?
We do. Mr. Todd Hickman in Recreation, please.
Yep, I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have our Mayor's Gala coming up next Friday. But if you are interested in buying tickets, or if anyone is, please have them get in this week. I need to give a count to the caterer on Friday, so I need to have, hopefully by Thursday, the tickets sold and have a count to give to the caterer for Friday. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it'll be the best value in town next Friday night. You get a good meal, an open bar, and a band for $30 a person, so it should be good. And then Saturday night, we have the tree lighting next week, which is, those dates are the 22nd and the 23rd. You know, a lot of family entertainment for the tree lighting, chance for the kids to get to see Santa, get to see the park lit up, and we do have fireworks at the end of the evening with a band, and the Legion will be there serving drinks during the band and stuff too. Also, if you do know anyone that is a third or fourth grader that's still looking to play basketball, we still do have room in the basketball league. 5th and 6th grade we have filled, but we will take a waiting list. If we get enough kids to do another team, we'll do it. But as of right now, we are kind of full with that. But any third and fourth graders, we can still take them. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
That is it, Your Honor.
I do have a couple. First, I want to congratulate the Riverview High School football team. They made it to the second round of playoffs. Unfortunately, they got beat by River Rouge, but I want to say congratulations on a really, really good season they had. It was a good game. And then also, happy Veterans Day to any veterans we have here and throughout the city and throughout the U.S. We appreciate your service. I got to spend some time today at the Bel Air and Michigan House visiting with veterans. And what I think is unique about it is they always have their own story to tell, and it was very interesting. So thank you to all of them. And also coming up this weekend, we have the sale of the Riverview Raspberry. It'll be on sale Friday and Saturday at a corner near you, so please be generous. And Todd, congratulations on the first USO dance party you guys had today. I thought it was a lot of fun. I sat and watched. You didn't want me up there dancing because it would be pretty, but it was a lot of fun. So with that, we'll start with our present Zoom presentation by Chris Fabian of Resource X. So we want to get this started here. And while that's starting up, I'll just read the background. The city is exploring alternative budgeting options. Resource X is a priority-based budgeting platform that helps governments align dollars with values. So, who do we have online here?
Hey everybody, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I can hear you great. My name is Chris Fabian. I am here to make the presentation today. Ryan Lucy is here with me. We work together, and Ryan's in Michigan, not too far away. I'm from Michigan, from Berkeley, but I now reside in Denver, Colorado. Our organization, Resource X, is actually a part of Tyler Technologies, and we've been in the space of bringing budgeting to a different level, especially for local governments, large to small, really coming to understand for all that you invest in your community, what are the outcomes that you're striving to achieve, how can we align the budget with those strategic plan goals, as well as find new ways to save money, which we know are always important to know where you can reallocate resources and generate new revenue for the residents you serve. So I have a short presentation. If it's okay, I'll dive right into it just to give an overview of what priority-based budgeting is all about, and certainly have an opportunity to have some discussion with you all, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. So that sounds good. There's my screen here. Okay, so in a nutshell, priority-based budgeting is something that I've been working on since I was in local government, since about 2008. Currently, if you follow the Government Finance Officers Association or the International City and County Management Association, ICMA is the acronym, and GFOA is the other acronym. They are the nonprofit associations that educate our finance professionals and city management professionals in local government. They have launched a rethinking budgeting initiative. It's almost 3 years in the making, and we have had a fortunate role in helping local governments implement what rethinking budgeting is all about. Locally, for you all, the city of Ferndale is a longtime practitioner of priority-based budgeting. You can go to their website actually and see some of their data live to see how they've been transforming the way they budget, the programs and services that they are buying, as well as the outcomes that they're striving to achieve. And then all the way up to communities like Battle Creek, Michigan, has been a practitioner of priority-based budgeting since about 2015. And then communities from Lansing, East Lansing, Kalamazoo, Ann Arbor, and many, many others throughout the state have been practitioners in various ways of program budgeting as well as priority-based budgeting. Across the country, there are just over 300 local governments who have implemented priority-based budgeting across the United States and into Canada. Again, very, very small organizations down to populations less than 10,000 people in Milton, Georgia to Liberty Lake, Washington, and then larger organizations like the city of Seattle, city of Denver, Colorado, where I live, and numerous other practitioners in between. What I want to walk you through, I just have 3 different ways to think about priority-based budgeting and the value that it brings, and why we created it in the first place. I thought might be helpful to share and in fact resonate with you all. The very first is how I got into priority-based budgeting with my own board of elected officials like yourselves, helped to ask tough questions about the budget that forced us to create a different way to see it. And the first was, for all the work that you spend in budgeting year after year, all the months, all the weeks asking departments what they need, and then trying to turn around and discover what you are actually investing in from an outcomes of your community perspective, we needed a way to connect some dots, and I'll show you what I mean. In our experience, and the experience of so many local governments throughout certainly the United States, line item budgeting is the prevailing best practice. Line item budgeting has been around for literally 100 years. We celebrated the 100-year birthday of line item budgeting just a few years ago. And we can't escape line item budgeting. Line item budgeting is certainly good for spending control. We have to report our budget to the state, and it gives us a chance to understand at an accounting level where we are appropriating our scarce resources. And so you spend time thinking about how much a department needs for postage or travel and meals or fuel, and we debate these things. But my board of elected officials said, well, that's great for all the work that we do to figure out if we need this much money in postage. The question was, how does our investment in postage or office supplies or fuel actually relate to the outcomes we're striving to achieve, like getting safer in our community or helping with economic vitality and prosperity and jobs for our community, or transportation solutions overall. And it's not lost upon us that that is a disconnect perhaps in the budget, is maybe we spend time thinking about a strategic plan, and we certainly do our best in the budget process to ask good questions about each and every line item that the departments are asking for. But in terms of being able to connect the dots all the way towards the outcomes, and again, my elected officials would say, what page in the budget do I turn to find out how much we're investing in the safety of our people? We didn't have a good way to answer that. So here's what the end looks like, so we have it in our mind. Your community, like many others, may have a strategic plan, or at least key priorities that you all care about. This being Kalamazoo's, they have things from shared prosperity to safe community, economic vitality, and other key results. And we can take each and every result and come to understand from a results first perspective, how much are we spending or investing in any given result area? So we can take our budget and understand it in terms of investment in result. That's what we're truly trying to pay for. If you go to Ferndale or Battle Creek, their websites actually put their information online for residents to be able to drill into and question and have thoughtful discussions about the investment of your budget into these outcomes for your community. Here you can see maybe it's $4.3 million invested in shared prosperity. We can drill specifically into the programs that you are funding, like after-school programs to support kids after school and parks and recreation, or entrepreneurship and neighborhood business support within economic development, or community and intergovernmental relations with the city manager's office. We see programs and services that each department is funding, the cost of providing those services, the staffing levels for those programs, and we are scoring each and every program relative to its impact or lack thereof on the outcomes you're striving to achieve. And if we wanted to drill into this community and intergovernmental relations program at $61,500, we could get back to the line items that support it, but we're not leading the discussion with postage and office supplies and travel and training. We're leading the discussion with results and the programs that we are funding from every single department that contribute towards the influence, achievement of those outcomes, and ultimately drilling back down to the composite line items that support the cause. I mentioned Battle Creek and Ferndale. There's many organizations actually you can go and see their data and see how they are investing into outcomes that matter most to their residents. You see it from Longmont, Colorado to Flagstaff, Arizona, and again, hundreds of communities in between. So the first breakthrough, and what you might find interesting, is priority-based budgeting can be a translation device to take what you know of in the line item budget and understand it in terms of the outcomes that you are investing in. We get there by taking line items, allocating them to programs and services, taking programs and scoring them relative to the priorities that matter most to your residents, and we can communicate in perhaps a different way about the hard work that we're doing in the budget process. And that's the first value proposition. The second component, the second value proposition, is that in the decision-making process itself, when departments are doing their best to communicate to you what they need in the budget, same idea, but we want to support the organization with the data to help understand what it is that they're asking for, translate it through the lens of programs and priorities. Again, to share how this came to us, we would have organizations who describe all of the great strategic outcomes that they're trying to accomplish. Maybe they even go as far as putting together a strategic plan and thoughtful planning documentation, but they make a leap in the budget process to something that looks more like what you see here on the screen. And it's never quite clear by the time we balance the budget if the outcomes that we're seeking to accomplish actually influence whether or not one department had funding for its budget proposals or another department didn't. How did that actually take place in the decision-making process? So I'll show you a different way. This is how our organizations are implementing priority-based budgeting. This is Flagstaff, Arizona, and all of the various priorities that they are striving to accomplish, from safe and healthy community to robust, resilient economy, and so on. Each department, in the midst of budgeting, while you can certainly get a line item budget for each and every department, like community development, which is their building inspection and permitting, economic and land use development department. What they're also showcasing are all the programs that they're funding, from inspections to code compliance, traffic systems management to Section 8 grant management, and so on. We can see the current funding for each and every program provided, as well as what they're asking for in the budget at a program level. Again, we can drill back down into the line item level for any of these specific programs, but now we know specifically what funded. in the proposed cost. And then for any given budget proposal that's on the table, we can actually see, what do we know about this program? Does it relate to the priorities that we're striving to accomplish? Do we know, is this program mandated? Are we required to provide this program by the federal government or state government, or even our own charter or incorporation documents? For every given program, do we know the degree of reliance upon us? Do our residents really rely on us to provide a program? Or are there plenty of other options? What do we know about change in demand? Are citizens asking for more of this type of program? Are they satisfied with current delivery? Are they asking for less? Population served and cost recovery. What I'm describing are all of the scoring criteria in addition to your priorities that go into ranking and scoring each program based on its impact for highest degree of alignment down to the lowest degree of alignment overall. So we have every program that you're funding across every single department and an understanding of all the reasons why you provide it. And why this is helpful is that when it comes time to saying yes to one budget proposal or no to another budget proposal, when we're trying to balance the budget, we need a consistent benefit, at least from a consistent evaluation process. And when we to say that all proposals were evaluated on similar criteria, the criteria being those proposals that impact the community to the highest degree are prioritized and ranking the highest, and those proposals that don't simply do not get funded. And that is how communities using priority-based budgeting make their way through the budget development process, saying yes and no to various proposals by ranking until we balance the budget as appropriately as we possibly can. And last but not least, what I wanted to share with you for today, so if I've done a good job of explaining what we're doing in the process, we're helping the departments come up with a list of every program they provide. We're helping the departments translate their line item budgets around those programs and services. We're scoring the programs so we can budget with this information. But then outside of the process of asking for more, we also have the ability now to scrutinize all of the programs we're providing to figure out how can we do the best with the resources we have. Might there be ways to find program efficiencies? Can we look for partnerships? Can we free up and save money or generate new revenues along the way? And we get there because with every program scored and evaluated, and you can ask yourselves the same question, how much do you know of your budget is invested in programs that are not mandated? You really don't have the requirement to provide them. Or what programs are you offering or demand might be decreasing or offered by another organization or less aligned with the priorities that you're striving to accomplish, or programs that don't necessarily recover their costs overall. We use the scoring information to drive specific conversations around ways that we can free up and reallocate resources by sourcing programs differently, finding partners in the private sector, nonprofit, other local government entities, finding program efficiencies compared to others. How are you delivering programs compared to other organizations who are similar to your size? Really pushing service levels. You want to put more resources into programs that need to grow. And for other programs, it might be thoughtful to think about freeing up and reallocating resources, as well as the revenue side of the equation, where it might be appropriate to do so. And as communities have implemented priority-based budgeting, nowadays, we do have organizations who are facing fiscal pressure. Here's a community in Kansas who is applying priority-based budgeting for a large budget shortfall. So in their case, they predict that revenues are not sufficient to meet the ongoing expenses that are in their base budget. So we're using priority-based budgeting to come up with all of the ways that they can free up and reallocate resources. Other communities down south in Collier County, Florida, they don't have a budget deficit, but they still need to come up with ways to know the levers they could pull to save and free up money. In their case, about 22% of the budget overall What we end up providing, and I'll wrap up my point here quickly, is with every one of your programs, since we have done priority-based budgeting with over 300 jurisdictions and more across the country, we come back to you with your specific program as well, and examples of how other organizations of your size with programs just like what you are offering have been able to either generate new revenue or free up and reallocate resources, specific program guidance backed up by case study examples. Here I'm showing Los Angeles County and the City and County of Denver for a specific health department program overall. But the whole concept is whether you are talking about a program as basic as street sweep. Here we're demonstrating up to 5 or 6 different concrete examples for a specific organization where they've been able to free up and save money for street sweeping and also generate new revenue concepts for that type of program, or a bookmobile, a mobile unit bringing library services into a community, again demonstrating program cost savings and revenue generating ideas where the implementers of priority-based budgeting are able to consistently achieve a 10% resource reallocation or new revenue generation compared to the size of their budget. And that's what our true goal is. Ultimately, with priority-based budgeting, you're going through these basic steps together to get to the fundamental data, the programs that you provide, the costs of providing those programs, and why you provide them, their impact on community results, in order to drive a specific conversation in the budget process to balance the budget, and ultimately where to save money. So that's a concise version, talked about being optimized with my resources for time. But I would love to maybe stop my presentation and see how that come across, and if I could help answer any questions that you might be thinking about.
Any questions from council?
I have one question.
Rita?
How long does it take to switch from a line item paper version that we have over to a digital one that looks as organized as what you have up there?
Yeah, I'll go back to sharing my screen here. Our process takes about 3 months, or between 3 months and 5 months is what we advise. It can take less, so you are on the spectrum of organizations who might be able to get through this more quickly than once if you needed to do so. But we typically advise about 3 months to 5 months. The reason why it takes that amount of time is we know full well that your staff have other things to do besides doing priority-based budgeting. So we are taking in your data. We are bringing back to you all the types of programs that we think you're probably providing. We're predicting your program inventory based on all of the other organizations we've worked with. We consult with your departments to help say, we have tweak or budget or legal or police. How close are we? Can we fine tune the program inventory and save you some work rather than asking the department to have to come up with all of it on their own? We do the same thing with cost allocation and the scoring process itself. Doing as much as we can from the services side to take the load off of your staff. But yeah, 3 to 5 months.
Thank you, Chris.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Yeah, what is the cost for a service like this?
That's why I've got Ryan on the line here. Ryan has, I believe, developed a quote. If not already, we follow up with that for an overall assessment.
Yeah, I can send that over. We have a couple of different options. One thing that we do have is what we call a PDB director. And so what that is almost like an additional employee that kind of consults and goes over and kind of helps things out. I don't necessarily know if you guys would need something like that, but it's something that's there for you. There's a couple more options that we do have, and I can put all of that together so that way you guys have that and get that to you in the next day or two, so that way you guys have that.
anybody else. I have a couple. When you're developing these priorities, where does the criteria come from? Because the way we work, our budget is our city manager's budget. It's his budget. So, and then he has to work with all the department heads. And obviously, he gets input from council. How is that criteria developed of what makes it into the priority base?
Good question. So sometimes we come into a community that has a strategic plan. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes your community might have a comprehensive land use or master plan. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes a community might have done some resident engagement or a citizen survey in the past, and sometimes they do not. Our goal, in order to develop those priorities, first we would see, do you have any current documentation that would represent the reasons that you exist in the city of Riverview? That, let's say you care about a safe community or economic development or transportation for the health and well-being of your citizens, those sorts of things are tend to be common. But we really want to know specifically for you all, what do your citizens care about? Absent that kind of information, we don't have it, we have some options. Those would be kind of things that Ryan would put into a quote as well. We can do that and provide those types of services if you were interested. If you wanted to phase your work, some organizations will just do a program budget in their first year and score programs on things like degree of mandate, cost recovery, population served, and change in demand, and then save outcomes for their community for a phase 2, a future year component of implementation. And then last but not least, sometimes we interview the city manager and the staff to say, hey, we do want to score programs relative to community priorities. We don't have any documentation of our own that's relevant or valid to use. We don't have time for or money for a community survey or a strategic planning effort. But can we come up with them upon ourselves as city manager and department heads? And that is yet one more way to derive the priorities that we score against.
Thanks. And you did.
And if I could add one, is that I noticed online you guys have the City of Riverview Master Plan. So that could be something, a lot of our clients already have something in place, but it's all flexible. It's kind of what's important, like Chris said, getting everyone together and say, hey, this is what we want to go with, so.
Okay. Now, you mentioned a couple times about community input, and which is important. So how would this deal with where, let's say we've done a survey and you get input from the community, and high priority, I'll just use for example, high priority community wants a dog park. And so, but when we put that into our plan, okay, what can we afford? How do you deal with something that might have, for the community, have a high priority, but we just can't get in the budget?
Yeah, great example. So when we talk about priorities, we're defining results that determine why are you providing any program. Whether it's operating and running a dog park, or doing snow removal, or street sweeping, or building inspections. Those are examples of things that you're always confronted with. You do it in order to accomplish what you think you're all about. So our main questions would be, take the dog park for a perfect example. What business does the city of Riverview have offering a dog park? Is that truly up to you all? Does it relate to an outcome like recreational opportunities or quality of life? Is that appropriate for you all to be in? Let's say it is. So dog park scores very highly, in particular one result. Then we're actually seeing, well, now let's look at every other thing we have to fund and how those programs score against degree of mandate, cost recovery, population served, safe community, economic vitality, recreation and culture. And maybe dog park scores highly, maybe it doesn't. Just because it doesn't score totally highly doesn't mean you can't fund it. But it might mean, hey, maybe we're going to look at other options. Maybe we can seek a partnership. Maybe we can get some private sector sponsorship. Maybe we can consider different alternatives. How have other communities been able to fund a public dog park when maybe it doesn't reach the highest of your priorities? So that's just illustrative off the cuff of how you walk through the various scoring criteria to figure out should you be in the business of doing this? Is it appropriate for your role, and then how might you fund it?
So, and you brought up the question, should we be in that business? So we could take any process or, that we're involved in, and then
Yes.
obviously there's the cost of that process, and then return for that process. Would it be more obvious in this type of,
Yeah.
budgeting as opposed to, I'll say, the way we've been doing?
Yeah, if you look at, I would say yes, that's been our experience. Yes to every program you offer is going to get this evaluation, and the answer to the question, should you be in this business? And the programs that rank really low, that's a thoughtful question, is, hey, this program is not mandated, doesn't recover its costs, doesn't serve the majority of our population, demand is going down, we're subsidizing it with the general government resources, it doesn't make it safer, it doesn't link to economic vitality. What is this program? Why are we doing it? And those are good questions to ask. Beyond that, as far as would you be able to find this in your current budget process, I would thoughtfully question, can you turn to your budget book and find how much you're spending on snow removal, or the dog park, or police patrol, or building inspection? Oftentimes it's not very apparent. You have departments, police, you have line items, office supplies, personnel, but somewhere in the middle is investigations, it's crime lab, it's patrol, and that's what we're providing.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brian?
If I may, Mayor.
Sure.
Without knowing your pricing structure or what the cost would be for the software, how would we gauge the return on investment that we could expect, and how long would it take to realize that investment return?
Yeah, great question. So when I was mentioning, let's see if I do have this in a slide. Some of those communities like Pittsburgh or Collier County, Florida, and some of their dramatic achievements, what we are striving for with you, and for any community we work with, is that for all of the budget that we analyze, you're going to find somewhere on the order of 10% or more of that budget for resource reallocation opportunities and new revenue generation opportunities as well. Well, in Collier County, Florida's case, we bring up their slides. I know it's sunny county in Florida, not, yeah, you're on a river. That's about the only thing that you might share with their county, Florida. What I wanted to demonstrate is we analyzed $673 million of their budget to discover 22% of that that was on the table for resource reallocation opportunities. Now, what they did with that was they had to decide, well, that there's a ton of opportunities there. How much can we reasonably commit to? So that 22% amounts to $86 million, $150 million, representing well over 10% of the $670 million. So we achieved our goal with a nice starting place after we did our work. What they were able to commit to for the next 12 months was not the full amount, but about $40 million in savings, representing 6% of the budget analyzed. I think that's a fair assessment. If you took your city budget and said about 6% might be more reasonable for what you could achieve in your first year, that'd be a great goal. That's what we'd be striving for. That's the kind of level of return on investment that we think that would make this worthwhile for you all, for the money that you put in, and the outcome of budget savings and new revenue generation, leaving quite a lot of opportunities for future years, year 2, year 3, to get to that 10% or more within 2 years, certainly within 3 years. That's a reasonable goal. That's what we would look that you're shooting for.
One other.
Go ahead.
Where in the budgeting process would the finance department expect to begin if they were utilizing the AI software?
So we would talk about how does your budget process work today. So when do you adopt, kind of working our way back to when does the city manager's recommended budget come out, working our way backwards to when the departments usually engage with putting together budget proposals for personnel, non-personnel operating and capital. Working our way back to when we do some first fiscal forecast, where maybe you're setting the tone for, are you entertaining any requests from departments that's your economic outlook of some sort or another? But that's kind of the budget process in a nutshell. We would discuss with you where can we fit in to do our work, to do program inventory, cost allocation, scoring, intersect with the budget proposals coming in from departments. Are you going to have them go into your system? You want to use our functionality for budget proposals and requests, and then work your way using those budget proposals through decision-making, budget approval, recommendations from the city manager, and deliberations, all the way to reporting. So usually when we work, that long-winded answer for how do we work with the finance director and the finance team, but some of our departments were pretty flexible. They really like their way of gathering proposals, and they have a really preferred budget development process that they're used to, and we can consider priority-based budgeting as an overlay to understand where those resources are going, where the budget savings might take place. If you're going to use our system for budget proposals, decision-making, reporting, ultimately, we want to just make sure that we have, a couple months prior to when those budget proposals are coming in.
Great. And that's a quick question is, say we don't do, take your service for the entire city budget, can you break it down by a department, start there, and so we can see how the process works, what's all involved, and then move on from there?
You absolutely could. You could do the general fund and the departments within the general fund. You can do 3 departments, you can do 1 department. So those are definitely ways that other organizations have phased in their work to kind of see how this goes.
Thank you. Jeff, got any questions?
No, I don't. Ann, do you have any questions?
I don't really have any questions, but I don't foresee this overtaking the budget. The budget process has to happen. I mean, it's state law, right? So this would just be in concurrence with that. Like, I'm expecting more like an overlay type thing. I mean, that doesn't change our whole budget process system. It's more of, I see the council coming up with priorities, which from me standing at this point, I haven't really gotten what are those priorities. And I think that's where the important discussion needs to take place. From my point of view, is council giving direction of what are those priorities in entirety. And I've done that before with other groups. Those are hard priorities to come. Those are hard decisions to make. The budget is the budget, and that by law has to take place. So I understand what he's doing, and I totally get it, but it takes the council to all be in the right direction with priorities.
I think that was a question I had on the back of my mind and didn't bother to ask it, but what is the process? Sounds like you have to have priority lists perhaps to start with, line budget perhaps from the prior year or two. How's the process look in a nutshell, shortly, briefly?
Sure. We would love to start with is your current chart of accounts. Prior year budget is usually a good starting place. Some organizations begin with prior year actuals, depending on where you might be in that process overall. And from there, we work to develop the program inventory, the cost allocation to those programs. You do not need to start with a priority list. So to the question that was asked earlier about how might that look if you have, Ryan mentioned a master plan, maybe you have some existing documents that we can use for the scoring criteria by way of priorities, maybe you don't. So we do have some options for what you would use if you do have priorities, or if you do not, how would we derive those? Priorities are for scoring to rank programs based on degree of mandate, cost recovery, population served, and the priorities being things like safe community, economic vitality, transportation infrastructure. What are the priority outcomes that you're seeking for your community overall? So we don't know the answer to that question yet. We want to explore that with you to see what might you have and what don't you have that we could use.
Anybody else?
Mayor, the comment I have too is that, in the budgeting process, there is a human element, that I'm working with the department heads. We're going through the different line items, we're going through the different departments and their requirements based on the priorities that I feel that you have for the city, speaking with you, council. And that's really important to me because that's a gauge on, A, how they're performing in their department and running their department and funding their department. So I would be inclined to never get rid of the human element with the department heads. This would be something that would enhance it, not replace it, so.
Amen, we go the same way strongly.
Yeah.
This is not an automated, formulaic decision-making tool, it's all of the rest of the data to support the very human decision-making process in local government that is budgeting.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate the presentation. It was nice having you and look forward to hearing on some dollar figures.
Sounds great, sounds good. Thanks for having us, have a good rest of your meeting, happy Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Update, special projects. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going to have Jeff Kugelman go first. He's got, Jennifer's not here this evening, but Jeff's got a couple projects that we're currently working on. There's a lot of things at the landfill we're working on, but there's a couple big projects that he can kind of speak to real quickly.
Yeah, so the first one is the North Slope recovery, and that's, we're actually going through the evaluation. We had some bids that came in. We're evaluating those bids, and from a timing standpoint, I'll give you an example. One bid that came in was 90 pages long. So there's a lot to go through. So that's on the North Slope recovery. And then DUA has they set some limits for PFAS, and we're going through that process. I'm working with Jennifer and Tetra Tech on that in regards to the limits for PFAS, what they're willing to accept once the PFAS is basically cleaned. Going through the leachate and PFAS process. In regards to the plant, we actually have an intent to apply again for the grant or from the state. So more to come on that, but we had to turn around and apply again. We did not receive it. And it's a substantial amount of money for that, but that's for the PFAS plant. So.
And I'd just like to make one comment too. As the City of Riverview, we are a member of DUA, and I sit on the DUA board. And even though that they came up with limits, they had to submit to Eagle what they thought their limits should be. And that's going to take a few months for their review, as I'm told. And then once they do that, they won't immediately require you to meet those limits. There'll be a phase-in period. So even though we know it's coming and we're going to have to adhere to their limits, we're going to have some time to get there. And we have a meeting as early as Tuesday this week, Jeff and I, with Tetra Tech and their water people to talk about the next application for those grant money / loans, and what are we going to try to recommend to the landfill committee with which way we go.
So those limits could be implemented before we have the treatment plant?
Well, they're going to go hand in hand. We're going to try to have the treatment plant ready to go and to meet their regulatory limits. And we're going to have to look at all the
Explain
different...
to us why that's important, why we want to treat it as opposed to all the way.
Because of the cost. It'll be much less expensive to treat it through our water plant than to pump and haul it off-site.
Are municipalities required to treat it at their own facilities, or can they ship it off?
Well, that's just what the mayor was talking about. We could ship it off, but it'd be at a higher cost.
That
You have to
cost
go
is
to-
substantial.
Yes, it is.
That's the cost that went up by over 300%, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
And I will revert back to what Councilman Workman said. When we're looking at all this PFAS, it's PFAS today, what is it tomorrow? What is it the next year? So we're trying to look at the plant so that we're ready for the next contaminant that we're gonna have to treat before we can ship it down the line. And does it make sense to get a system in place, should we get some funding that exceeds, well, takes care of the PFAS, but will take care of the next contaminant? So we gotta look at all of that. But that would all come back, it will have to all come back to council, well, to the committee and then to council. And we'll have to figure out how we pay for that, so. That's on our radar though.
Is there a way we could get like a speculative report on what it would cost for a year if we were trucking it out?
Sure, we absolutely could.
I'd like to see those
That would
numbers
be rather predictable, I would think.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
at the current rate.
mm-hmm. Yep, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's it from the landfill. So now we have our engineer, city engineer, Mr. Sohail.
Good evening, everyone. The street sectioning is progressing. We are pretty much about 70% completed. The lead services, we added more services to be replaced. We are about 72% completed. The sewer lining is 99% completed. That's almost done. We are working on next year's program. The Clark Street water main, we get permits for it from Eagle. We're coordinating with the contractor, starting the construction early spring. And we're inspecting the DE gas main replacements. That's all I have.
Thank you, Sohail. Anything else?
That's all I think we have, Your Honor.
I do have one announcement. Councilman,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Dave.
I'm so,
You stayed late, you should say something.
you know what? I'm sorry, Dave. It's Dave Skirdo in the Economic Development Department has his report.
Yeah, I got the 3 items tonight. The first is the Panda Cannabis building. We call them weekly, they're still pulling together some architectural plans to meet what the planning commission requirements are. They still need site plan approval. They've been in front of them once, they have to come back.
That's Grace Church.
Second is, we had a sound studio get approved. They're going into one of those houses right on 4th Street.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna go reoccupy one of those houses, just a small sound studio, so they're in the middle of doing all the permits and retrofitting the homes. And the final thing is the planning commission asked us to start evaluating a couple of the zoning ordinance sections. And so we're working with them, pulling some data together.
The houses you're talking about on 4th Street, those are the ones near Pennsylvania?
Yeah, they went out that way, Dave, there's a cream barber shop in
That's
there.
it, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, excuse me, Dave, would you mention the email that we shipped off to Eagle regarding the wetlands and the response, and we've got to work through that still?
Well, we did get a response back from Eagle. It was not real clear what the next steps were. So I'm working with Randy's Ohio and them to see if we can get a better clarification on what the wetland mitigation program's about.
Okay. Just want to make sure that you know that he was working on that and we didn't forget about that. It's still on the radar, so.
I know it's complex. I spent about an hour and a half reading through a lot of online documentation today, and
It's not
gonna be
easy.
an easy answer.
And they really want, in a nutshell, and don't let, if I'm misspeaking, Dave, please correct me. They really want to know what the end use is before they want to make any kind of statement.
Right.
And
Where
that's
you're
almost,
using on the property.
yeah, and that's really tough because, you know, is it the chicken or the egg, right? What came first? And that's what we're dealing with. No one wants to propose a development if they don't know if they're going to get it or not. So,
Or invest into creating a plan to say, this is how I'd use the property, where I would put the
Mhm.
buildings and structures.
Correct.
And then pay for all that money and not have an idea of
so
how much you're gonna pay for wetland.
So we're still chasing that. We're not letting it go. Dave's still working it with the DNR, so, or Eagle, I'm sorry, Eagle.
Cool.
Okay?
Any estimates on when Brewster's, the new ice cream place, is going to open up?
No, I just, they're going through their building. I can find that out and send it out to Jeff to find out where they are with all their inspections. You know, at the end, you always have to wait for the fire
People have
inspection.
their priorities, they want their ice cream.
You want their ice cream, yeah?
Is it
And-
going where Rite Aid is?
It's.
No, and the mall where Parthenon is.
Riverview
Oh, it's
Plaza.
on
If
that
you
Riverview
take
Plaza.
Parthenon, take that same building, go to the other end,
Yeah.
go to the south, it's right in the corner.
Okay, just so I know where to get in line.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And we have
It's not a
a
drive-through, it's a walk-up. When they have a window, it's gonna be a walk-up. window.
Awesome.
new, we have a new fireplace shop on Quarry Road. Did they tell you?
No.
Okay. Well, it used to be in Southgate, looks like they moved to, where, I call it the old Moose Building on Quarry Road, where the landscaping place is.
Yeah.
And,
Fire shop side and the Aqua sprinklers?
yeah,
That was the one that was on North Line, right?
yeah.
By 75.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been
Cool.
here before.
Can I ask what Mine South is and where's that located? It says that there's a process of building an
Mine
addition. Mine South?
Oh, mine's up, that's the old, oh, please someone help me, that credit union on King Road, Advantage?
Oh, yeah,
Advantage
yeah.
One or something like that, it's that building.
Do you know what type of business it is?
It's a doctor, medical office, something to do with neurological.
Okay.
Cool.
Randy, I have a question, Randy. I don't know if you know, with cannabis, I know they do a count in September. When do they cut checks? Usually what, February?
I think February.
February,
March.
towards the end of March, February, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And we'll have credit day for 4 opened,
For open.
Cool.
so I will be
Two
happy to
words.
report to council when we receive those funds, what the total was.
Cool. Any other business council wants to bring up?
Just real quick, obviously the football game score was not what we would have liked it to be, but there was a very small incident at the high school that evening, and Chief, I gotta say, your guys were right there on the spot. Everything was taken care of very quickly. Just a huge compliment on how professional everybody was. I was very impressed with all the officers. So, just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you.
I don't know, that was it.
I do have one more announcement that Councilman Robbins reminded me. On the 26th, at the fire station from 5 to 7, Grace Church, I almost said Grace Point, Grace Church is going to pass out food baskets. Do they need to let them know who's coming, or they just show up, do you know?
It's gonna be a get in line, and like further details to come, I guess, but they just wanted the date and the time out there.
Okay.
Anybody that needs, and the local businesses are
Yeah.
contributing to that. whole
Yeah, one thing you can
process.
say about, well, the NGOs and our businesses really take care of our community during the holidays, during Thanksgiving, Christmas time, so we appreciate all their help. With that, now's the time for public comment. Anyone wish to address the mayor and council, approach the podium and take what you want. Come on up.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
That's okay, we're not going anywhere.
I just had one quick question, and I believe it's for this gentleman. Is Jeff correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the landfill, when they do the PFAS and everything, is it true that the municipal cities are held to a different level than the other people, or is everybody held to the same level?
Jeff, you want to answer that?
When any organization puts out standards, so this has taken Eagle a fairly good amount of time to get to the point now, along with DUA, to set limits and what those limits look like, based on what their acceptance is, what their capacity is, things of that nature. So each municipality, I can't speculate and I won't speculate, but I can follow up and get you some information.
Would you like me to leave my name and phone number later?
Okay.
Because I heard commercials different than, like a city, have different standards.
Okay, I can follow up with you on that.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, it's time to go home and watch football.